The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as Ambassador Kethvar of the Zephyrian Empire rose to address the assembly. His crystalline form shimmered with barely contained amusement as he gestured toward the small blue world displayed on the holographic projector. Esteemed colleagues, his voice resonated with harmonic frequencies that translated into condescending laughter across a dozen species. We gather today to discuss the quaint application from this backwater planet called Earth. These humans believe they deserve a seat among the stars. A ripple of what could only be described as cosmic chuckling spread through the chamber. The Vorthan representative, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline matrix, pulsed with mirth. They've barely escaped their own gravity well. What could such primitive creatures possibly offer the galaxy? Indeed, agreed Chancellor Morden of the hegemony, his tentacles writhing in amusement. Their technology is laughably crude. They still use chemical propulsion and haven't even mastered faster-than-light communication. They're barely past the Stone Age by galactic standards. The humans' representative, Captain Sarah Chen, stood quietly in the designated area for lesser species. Her simple blue uniform looked almost pathetic among the exotic technologies and bizarre forms surrounding her. She had listened to 3 hours of mockery, her expression never changing from polite attention. Ambassador Kethvar continued his presentation. Their military capabilities are particularly amusing. They fight among themselves with projectile weapons and explosive devices. They've managed to split their own atoms, yes, but only to create more efficient ways to destroy each other. Hardly the mark of a spacefaring civilization. Their science is equally primitive, added Dr. Veltar, the Nexus Collective's finest xenobiologist. They believe in something called evolution rather than guided genetic perfection. They actually think random mutation and natural selection could produce intelligence. How delightfully naive! The assembled delegates erupted in harmonious mockery. Some species literally glowed with amusement, while others produced sounds that would have been beautiful if they weren't so obviously derisive. Perhaps, suggested the ethereal representative from the astral dominion, we should offer them a place as entertainers. Their primitive antics might amuse our children. Captain Chen finally stepped forward. The chamber gradually quieted, curious, to hear what this representative of such a backward species might say in their defense. "Honored delegates," she began, her voice steady and clear. "You speak of our primitive nature, our crude technology, our tendency toward conflict. You're not wrong about any of that." This admission brought fresh waves of superior laughter. "But," Chen continued, raising her voice slightly, "you've made one critical error in your assessment." "Oh?" Kethvar's form sparkled with condescending interest. "And what might that be, little human?" Chen smiled, an expression that somehow made several delegates shift uncomfortably in their seats, pods, or energy matrices. "You assume that being primitive makes us weak." She pressed a small device on her wrist. "Admiral Thompson, you're cleared for demonstration." The chamber's defensive systems immediately activated as unknown signatures appeared throughout the solar system. Alarms blared as the assembled delegates' ships, the most advanced vessels in the galaxy, found themselves surrounded. "Impossible," breathed Chancellor Morden. "Our sensors detected nothing. How did they—" "You were looking for your kind of technology," Chen explained calmly, as holographic displays showed the human fleet materializing around them. Elegant energy manipulations, quantum field generators, exotic matter drives. You never thought to look for something as primitive as kinetic projectiles launched from outside your sensor range. The human ships were indeed crude by galactic standards, metal hulks powered by fusion reactors and armed with rail guns and missile arrays. But there were thousands of them, and they had approached using the galaxy's most advanced stealth technology. Complete technological simplicity. "Those are generation ships," whispered Dr. Veltar, her scientific instruments finally reading the massive vessels. "They've been traveling for decades to get here. The crews are volunteers who knew they'd never see Earth again," Chen finished. "You see? You've spent so long perfecting your technologies and your societies that you've forgotten something fundamental about survival. Sometimes the most dangerous opponent is the one with nothing left to lose." Ambassador Kethvar's form was no longer shimmering with amusement. "What do you want?" "Recognition," Chen said simply. "A seat at the table, trade agreements, the same rights you'd grant any spacefaring species. And if we refuse?" Chen's smile grew wider. "Then you'll learn why every predator on Earth eventually learned to fear humans. We're persistence hunters, you see. We don't give up. Ever. We'll keep coming, keep adapting, keep improving until we've overcome whatever obstacle stands in our way." She gestured to the displays showing the human fleet. "These ships represent just the first wave. Back home, humanity has spent the last 50 years preparing for this moment. We've studied every piece of technology we could steal, salvage, or reverse engineer from your advanced civilizations. We've learned to think like you, to anticipate your strategies. But more importantly," she continued, "we've learned to do something you seem to have forgotten how to do. We've learned to fight dirty." The silence in the chamber was no longer amused. It was the silence of predators suddenly realizing they had become prey. "So," Chen concluded, "shall we discuss Earth's membership in the Galactic Council, or would you prefer to explain to your respective governments how you managed to let a primitive species park a fleet in your most secure system without anyone noticing?" Ambassador Kethavar's form flickered, the crystalline equivalent of a nervous swallow. "I believe," he said carefully, "we should proceed to the formal recognition ceremonies." The stars had laughed at Earth. They weren't laughing anymore.